Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the last days. It's going to be amazing because we're going to go through it together. And I had the privilege of meeting this wonderful woman today. Her name was Agnes, and we were at the bank. And she said, "Are you Laura-Lynn Tyler Thompson?" And I said, "Yes." And she's from Poland. And so we had just a wonderful talk outside the bank and greeted one another and gave each other a hug because we're allowed. And I still have 2 tickets from being outside in Saskatchewan not wearing a mask with more than 10 people. And no one got COVID, by the way, from that. And there is actually no way, there's no proof of any transmission outdoors anyways, but whatever. It was wonderful to meet this beautiful lady, and she's standing today with Pastor Artur, and we're going to get into what's going on with Pastor Artur today. I opened my dad's Bible. He passed away, and I love to read the things that he thought was important. Because we're going to be talking largely about children today, I wonder if he thought that verse in Luke, that passage in Luke was important about kids, and it'd be better to tie a millstone around your neck than hurt a child. And lo and behold, here it is. If it were better for him, that I might start at 1. Then said he unto the disciples, so this is Jesus, "It is impossible, but that offenses will come. But woe unto him through whom they come." We're going to have trouble. We're going to have hurts. But woe unto the person through whom it comes. If it were better for him that a millstone were hung about his neck, and he was cast into the sea, than that he should offend one of these little ones. Take heed to yourselves. If your brother trespasses against you, rebuke him. And if he repents, forgive him. I find that interesting that it says, if he repents, forgive him. We're always talking about, forgiveness. Forgiveness, when someone asks you to forgive them, that's when you really have to consider that maybe you should be forgiving them. If someone doesn't ask for forgiveness, I believe it's in your best interest, in your heart, to forgive them in your heart and to release all of that vile, the vile feelings that come with all of that, and that forgiveness is important. But forgiveness, it seems even in the Word that the Lord says that if you don't repent, He doesn't forgive us. So isn't it interesting that sometimes forgiveness is very dependent on repentance, the person who offended? Very, very interesting. However, it says this, "And if he trespasses against you 7 times a day, and 7 times in a day turns again to you, saying, I repent, thou shalt forgive him." So we're all about forgiveness on this show, but I'll tell you something. Once I know you're a scorpion, a viper, or an evil, deceptive, manipulating, satanic slime, probably you're not going to be on my list of people coming over to my home for dinner. And actually, you might not even regret that, because I'm not the best cook. But anyways, we do want to be forgiving. And our government maybe needs to show a little grace with what our country has been through. And I want to go to now Artur. We sent a cameraman, the wonderful Scott, to go and get some video this morning. It was so cold, his camera freezed up, but he was able to pull out his phone and get some things and let us know. So Pastor Art, he's in the courts today in Lethbridge. This is what happened this morning.
We are living in a fascinating time where people have to choose between good and evil.
It's unbelievable that this is happening in our nation and our province, how we've come to this a low point in history again. So the point of today is to stand together, to fight for one another in truth and love and with God.
This is a trial of the century. We are here because I have been accused of a serious crime for my church sermon to the truckers and farmers last year in Coos. The Crown Prosecutor accused me of causing Canadian economy over $400 million worth of damages. They were talking about me inciting people to commit acts of violence against other people. Total insanity, mischief. breach of over 5,000, breach of probation. So the state is not only prosecuting me, but they're persecuting me. This was my 5th arrest. Of course, I spent 50 days in jail, and today is the ground showdown, if you will, with this craziness of tyranny in our beloved Canada. This case is very serious, if not the most serious case so far, because freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of association, freedom of speech, everything that we stand as Canadian for is on trial. If I go down, Canada effectively will have no freedom of religion, no freedom of expression at all. Anyone can and would be then arrested for simply delivering a message, delivering a sermon, or doing a rally or a protest.
So what we're finding out, absolutely, Pastor Art is correct. If he goes down, if he is not allowed to speak the truth, if he's not allowed to have free speech, to proclaim the gospel, and they try to twist this, it's a very bad and dark day for Canada, and we pray that does not happen. So Ezra Levant has been reporting from the courthouse, and they have several courtrooms. They have chosen to use the courtroom that has only 30 people allowed in it, rather than another courtroom that has 150 people allowed in it. So they are minimizing, and trying to make it look like he has less support or whatever, not giving access to his supporters. Clearly, you can see there's a lot of people who would love to be sitting in listening to what is going on, but they've limited it. And we do have a tweet here from Ezra, and it says, you're not going to believe this, I'm dead serious. The government of Alberta, through its Justice Department, through this disgraceful prosecutor, Stephen Johnston, is comparing Pastor Artur's sermon to the genocide of Rwanda. I swear to God, he has done that twice now. So thank you, Ezra, for reporting. We're hearing that the defense is now up for Pastor Artur. So we just pray and believe for the defense of this man and the fight that he's had, and for his wife, Marzena, his children, that they would be protected, that God would heal our country, and that the freedom to proclaim the gospel, the freedom to speak, the freedom, for goodness sakes, to feed the homeless when they need to be fed. Yes, during a pandemic, outside, the virus can't even survive out there. He did amazing things, and he went to Coots. He did a speech there. He proclaimed the gospel. He did not do anything like a speech that should be able to be compared to the Rwandan genocide, where they called the Tutsis cockroaches and maligned them and dehumanize them. No. Pastor Artur has a very good way of calling out what is actually going on. And our country, do you know who spoke of this morning? Was this woman that I met out on the streets here in British Columbia, a woman who says she's from a communist place, and she had tears in her eyes as she said, when I look back at what we were going through then, it's come here. We are there. That is terrifying. So we stand with Pastor Artur, and we pray for God's protection, his vindication, and God's justice today over him. Just before we go into an amazing interview today with my dear friend, Dr. Ann Gillies, I think we're going to show, I'd like to show that some very evil things are going on. Have you seen this? The Satanic Temple TST. They believe that killing unborn babies is a religious ritual similar to Christians' communion or baptism. They've opened a new service, TST Health, to promote abortions, and they aim to expand the religious ritual service to states where abortion has been banned. So this is actually going on. And you know what? You don't hear an awful lot about protests or or people even having charges or being arrested for such things. I also want to say to you that I've had word this morning. My heart's been heavy, so I've just been emotional driving, hearing about this. But basically, in Ontario, it looks like a woman, she had a pregnancy, 38 weeks. This precious little boy, he was killed this morning by lethal injection, even though this precious addicted woman, a mom, she was told that people would adopt her baby boy. She said no today, and a 38-week baby, his life was terminated this morning. So I got this from some people who have been praying. And so we know. I kind of wonder when we have a country that has lost all moral backbone and does not value life. Is it any wonder that MAID is exploding? Giving people the option to kill themselves. That's popular. Even suggesting it to people who are having a hard time. Well, have you considered killing yourself? In a country where we have not embraced life, the life that God has given us, I do believe we're in a season of judgment. But the good news is, everyone, the judgment is not on us. The judgment shall be on them. The righteous shall be preserved. The righteous shall stand. We will flourish in this desert. But for those who are doing these very evil things, God will deal with it. Is there anything else I should deal with before we head to the thing? The statue? Yes, we also had this picture of this statue, and it has gone up. I mean, just pure satanic evil. This is very symbolic. Do we have the write-up on it? Because I had been reading about it, but I don't have that in front of me. No? So I sent these pictures, and I didn't. Yeah, okay. And do you remember what building this has been put up? It's a substantial monument. I don't know if it's outside of a Washington place. Maybe look at the feet. The feet are all bizarro world and like tentacles, yeah. And the whole headdress and all of that. So this has been put in a very prominent place. Let's find out by the end. I'm sorry, I probably just sent you the picture and not the whole thing. It looks like our world is going to hell in a handbasket, and pure evil is completely accepted, while those who stand up for what's right, for religious freedom, freedom of speech, for security, for life, they're the ones being persecuted in our nation. It's a sad day. It really is. And, as we go to our interview, I'm going to be inviting Ann Gillies to come on here, and I'll tell you, one of the amazing things that I love about those who I know are that they are willing to put themselves on the line, to be honest, to talk about what is going on. And she has written a book on predators, the predators that are amongst us, the predators that we are seeing every single day in our world. They're in our children's schools. Pedophilia is on the rise. And for those people that are putting themselves in harm's way, the government harm's way, because the government is trying to have bills and legislation and laws that will silence those who dare to speak the truth on all of these issues, transgenderism and pedophilia. And it's not an easy place to be. Ann E. Gillies, Ph.D., received her call to ministry in 1982, and her passion basically has come from Isaiah 61, 1-3. She spent over 25 years in private counseling practice, working extensively with trauma survivors, seeing lives restored and transformed. She retired from practice in 2019 to focus on advocacy and political reform for for the traumatized, those struggling with unwanted sexual attractions, and for the most vulnerable, our children. And our children are definitely in harm's way at this time. So Ann Gillies, Dr. Ann Gillies, I'd just like to welcome you to the show. Thank you very much for being here today. And thank you for your service. It hasn't been easy. I know you've been through some fire, but you're willing to speak out. Tell me about your book and what caused you to write your next book.
Thanks for having me, Laura-Lynn. We on me and said, you have to write your story. Just before I get into this, I want to say to people, my internet is freezing a bit. So I'll try, if I see it freezing, I will stop talking until it unfreezes. I'll try and navigate this. I had this little bit of pressure and said, you've got to write your book. You've got to write this story. And so I did. It was my sons have chapters in this book. Another specialist who works specifically he worked a long time in the penal system in the US with pedophiles. He was hired by the government to work with pedophiles. He has tremendous knowledge in this area. My knowledge comes from personal experience. So this book is our family story. It's so important for people to understand what is out there, what is in even some of your homes, and certainly what was in my home when my children were growing up. So
Right.
the first
So what happened, Dan? What happened in
Well,
your home?
Yeah, under my watch, but I wasn't, I never knew what was going on. First of all, the first is my personal story. And so when I married my first husband, we'd been married for about a year. And then we moved to Vancouver, actually, and he disclosed to me that he'd had a homosexual affair. And it's so interesting you started with what you started with about forgiveness, Laura-Lynn, because I was a new believer, and you asked for forgiveness. He said, I am so sorry. It won't happen again. And I thought, we're newly married. We had a baby. And so I just chose to forgive him. I knew nothing about setting boundaries, and counseling in those days, who knew about it? I didn't know anything about counseling, and he wouldn't have probably gone anyway. So I keep going on. So we stayed in Vancouver about 6 years. There was another incident that I knew of that he left for 3 or 4 days, and I had no idea where he was. He came back home, and he'd been at gay bars the whole weekend. And I mean, this was so foreign to me. But he was weeping, will you please forgive me? So I'm like, okay. By this time, I had 3 little children. And I did go to the pastor, actually, and talked to him about what was going on. And the response was not helpful. And I'm not saying that this is typical of churches. I mean, in the 80s, probably was in the 80s for sure, because they didn't know what to do. And said to me, well, he sinned against God, not you. And I'm like, well, that's not true. What he did is a violation of our marriage covenant. And yeah, it's a sin like any other sexual sin, but he violated our marriage covenant. Anyways, but life went on, and I made a decision that because we had 3 young children, I married for 14 years. And, was that the right decision? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It wasn't the right decision for me personally, although I've survived that. but it was the wrong decision because of what my kids were experiencing that I had no idea about. And
So
you
if
know,
you had to go back, Anne, you would say that you would have made a different decision and ended the marriage?
yeah. I probably wouldn't have done it after the first time. You know, I am all about grace. And I know some of you women out there are going, are you kidding me? You know, he didn't even, he violated your covenant, but with a man, no less, instead of, and that was really hard, I have to say.
Confusing. Yeah.
Mhm. I'm like, okay, this is pretty sad. But the purpose of life is personal sexual freedom. There's no limits. And looking back, I can see the trajectory of this pedophile. I mean, the long story. Oh, I better not shorten it because I want to give you the whole kind of scenario. We ended up moving north in BC. He come home, and this time he said to me, I found someone new. I love him and I love you too. And I'm like, this is kind of like, wake up, Anne. This is who he it's not who he is. He is making choices, believe me. And he had all the right reasons to make the right choices. So anyways, my heart that was kind of like, okay, this isn't going to change. It still took us 3 years, took me 3 more years, which I just so regret now, to actually kick him out. And then fast forward, when I remarried, so that was after another 3 years or whatever, 2 months after I was the kindest, gentlest, most wonderful man that I could have ever, God could have ever given me. 2 months after, my youngest son from the first marriage told us that his biological father had been sexually abusing him.
Wow.
It was like my world fell apart. How could I miss this? How could I not? That was called time, not only for my children, but for me, and the guilt. And it probably took me, I mean, I kept asking the Lord to just lift that guilt off me because I knew I couldn't live under it. But it was hard because these were my babies. And this man had manipulated me, but worse than that, he had manipulated our children. And he hadn't worked the last 5 years for marriage. He was kind of the nice guy, just great guy. He vacuumed the house. He was making the meals because I was at work and I was working 2 jobs. And what he was doing, well, let me share what he was doing. So hold on to your shirt tails. This is one of my son's, one of his chapters, and I'm just going to read a few lines from it. When we lived in Vancouver, where I was born and lived until I was 2 years old. It continued, and when we moved back to Ontario a few years later, it continued and escalated. Dad's brutal abuse escalated when he began to was working and the other kids were at school. There were 3 or 4 guys who regularly visited to have sex with my dad, and then they would rape me. Sometimes only one of them, sometimes all of them. My dad would make me watch them all have sex and then force me to comply with their wishes. My son probably started in Ontario around 5 or 6 years old. He'd already suffered from the time he was a toddler. And when he was remembering, and I was writing this down for him, he even remembered the names of the two men in Vancouver. And he wasn't even 2 years old at that time, which I was blown away by, because children typically don't remember.
Well, can we get charges
It was those
pressed
trauma
then?
memories.
Can we get charges pressed, or has
He
anything
was
like that ever happened?
Well, we did. The police told us it was the worst case, because that just scratches the surface. They told us it was the worst case of child abuse they had ever encountered, and we did go to court, and we only need my son's testimony. There were others that he had raped, and they would have testified, but the Crown said, no, we only need your sons. It is so solid. And they lied to us, because the judge acquitted my former husband. Here's the judge's words. You know, some things are seared in your mind. And I said this last night on this. I totally believe your son, but I can't totally disbelieve your former husband. I mean, my jaw just dropped. Well, of course, he said some truthful words, and. You know, I was so livid. I've never been so angry in my life. And I mean, I was so hurt for my son. He'd just been through, like, you know, he was having to testify. He was 11 years old. It was horrid.
And the problem here too is that our society is seeing more and more of this, and these pedophile rings. We're seeing you know, people being charged with all kinds of things, and it's growing, and it's coming out, and it's bubbling up to the surface, and we can no longer deny that these predators are basically everywhere, and problematically they're in our schools largely as well.
Oh, huge. And, you know, Laura-Lynn, before about 2010, we never heard of sex trafficking. You know, it was there, but it wasn't on the scale it is now. We never heard of transgender. I mean, there was transsexuals, but no transgender. And different schools. This is all about a recalibrating of children's brains and adults. It's all propaganda, and there is so much stuff out there, you know, but it goes back for many years. And I mean, in Closing the Floodgates, I talk a lot about Kinsey in the first in the first 2 or 3 chapters, and the University of Indiana.
And Kinsey was the guy who did all of these terrible, he did all of these terrible, you know, tests and stuff, and then wrote about it, and, you know, just absolutely sickening, disgusting, and sort of received by mainstream as, you know, oh, look at the great research he did to figure this out. I mean, obviously they abuse children in order to do that, you know,
to do that research.
Studies and research that they did. And so your internet is so difficult, Anne, but I think that maybe we should try to get you on another time, because it's just like it's doing it every minute or whatever. But I want you to just plow through and get the word out, because we can kind of wait, you know, that second, but it's just I'm so sad about your internet. It's really struggling.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So your family's been through this, and as you wrote this book, you're combining your family story with what you are also seeing happen in society.
Yeah. Yeah, there's chapters also from a couple other people that I interviewed, one in the music industry and one in the fashion industry, and they tell their stories. Both of them, they were high up in their fields, And so they know what they're talking about. So their stories are powerful, but it's all over. It's everywhere. Protecting your children means getting them out of the schools. Don't give them cell phones. Monitor what they're watching. I mean, you have to be hyper vigilant now, and that's a horrible thing to say. But
Oh,
your
yes, you
children
do. Everyone's giving their kids cell phones. Like you can access
are
the
precious.
darkest places, right? With cell phones. And we're literally handing a loaded gun to children to have these cell phones. And we think, society has just come to accept that that's just standard. It's unbelievable. I held my kids off the longest I could, getting the cell phone, talking to them about the dangers, talking to them about, real things that they should be. Yeah, yeah, there was no smartphones at that time. That's right. That's how far back it was. So they weren't actually, being able even at the young ages to do that. But you're so right, Dr. Ann, that if if you're a parent, like being vigilant about what they are accessing.
Yes.
Internet can be turned off in a home, let's say at a certain hour, if you get one of those internet protectors. We used to have them on our home service.
The other thing, one of the things that, and we maybe have talked about this before, Laura-Lynn, is the whole area of pedophilia in academia and the media. And it goes back a while. Like in 2014, the New York Times declared that pedophilia isn't a disorder, sorry. And so they're saying, okay, well, it's not a choice. It's a neurological deficiency. Something's wrong neurologically. So where have you heard
So
that
they're
before?
just minor attracted now,
Yes.
not pedophiles.
Well, and if it's no longer a choice, then that's where the born that way comes in. So that's what they're doing with the transgender now.
Yep.
We're
That's
born
the
in the
whole
wrong body.
LGBTQ thing. You're born that way. So now you can be born to, as a pedophile.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we do not agree, then we're canceled. I said last night as well, if we do not crawl up on the altar of all of this activist, it's propelled by activists and politicians, and if we do not sacrifice on that altar, then we are canceled in Canada.
Yes.
They are trying
what
to
are-
annihilate Christians.
Right. And tell me some of the dangers that's happening. Like if you speak what you believe to be true, from your training, from your religious beliefs, from your experience, if you speak that, you're in danger of potentially having your license revoked, going to prison, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, one of the reasons I did retire because I wanted to be able to speak freely. But even that, I mean, you still really, you and I can speak freely until they decide we no longer can, and because there's laws in place now that prevent us from talking about, for instance, with my eldest son, because there were ramifications after. There's always effects, even though one of Kinsey's assistants said that incest between adults and younger children is a good thing and there's no harmful effects. Oh yeah, right.
Ask any victim.
Oh my goodness, yes. And so one of my sons became a drug addict. The other ended up in the LGBTQ. Now, so good. Yeah, no, it's not. These men have lifespan that's 20 years shorter than heterosexual men. Like, hello, there's a whole lot of problems here. Nevertheless, my son left because he got so disgusted with the promiscuous behavior. And so he sought out help. And you can't do that anymore, right?
Right.
So those kind of things are the things that we can't help as
When you
therapists.
say, and just explain from your expert position, you can't get that kind of help anymore. What do you mean by that? So let's say you want to get help for your unwanted, same-sex attraction. Why can't you get help for that anymore?
Well, because there's a conversion therapy laws. And so anyone, a therapist, and even a pastor who would advertise or would help advertise or even in any way promote conversion therapy, which is basically helping someone that comes to you who, and they may come to you into your office because they want to deal with trauma. And then, and for my son, he didn't go to the community, not at first. He went because he wanted to reduce the sexual activity overall. And that's why he went. And so he would not be allowed to receive help, and we would not be allowed to help him. If he was heterosexual, you can
Right.
help those people.
You
So
know, Dr.
there's a
Ann,
lot of stuff.
I remember reading an article. About a young man who had gone into the trans lifestyle and had gone through operations and all of that. And one of the things he said in hindsight, when he realized he didn't want to be a woman anymore, he wanted to go back to being a guy as he was born. One of the things he said was, why didn't anyone stop me? Why didn't anyone even have a discussion with me about, what are some of the reasons that some things you need to look at when you're considering doing this, some of the pitfalls. Why didn't anybody cause me to think about this? And the reason is very prevalent now that we're not allowed. Apparently, you can get fines, you can get imprisoned. This is where they're going. Even parents can get in a lot of trouble. If you're not just going to sell yourself out to this whole ideology, then our society is going to put the crackdown on us.
That's exactly right. Now, saying that, we've not been able to talk about those individuals who have left the LGB and now the T. But, there are a lot of people out there who have left. And, scientifically, research-wise, young people who start down that road, often by the time they're in the mid-20s. But we never hear about them.
Yes.
We don't hear about them.
I think you said they've changed their minds.
Yeah.
Yes, they've come out of it. And I think that we should. I'll just give you an opportunity to wrap it up, and then let's do this again when you're back at home and your internet is perfect. Because I know that this is very powerful. We have a lot of people watching right now, and we want to let them know how to get your book, because we're all dealing with this. And today I'm going to be having Mark Friesen's going to come on and talk about a situation going on in Saskatchewan. We have situations going on in all of our provinces, because what you're writing about is it. That is what we are. That it is the worst evil and demonic assault against our society that there is, and it's absolutely horrendous. And you're kind of at the right time, at the right moment with what you're writing about.
Well, I have to say, Laura-Lynn, I would never have chosen this road, right? Most of us wouldn't. I wouldn't wish what I've experienced on anyone, but I know that other people are out there that have experienced similar things. And for those who trauma, I want to tell you there's hope. There's good therapists out there to help with child abuse, but there is a holy God. He is amazing. I would never have been able to get through my life without a relationship with Jesus. There's no way. I needed someone to lean on.
And that truly is the answer.
and full time, and that is
Yes.
important. He is. He
Yeah.
is. So I'm happy to come back. I'm very sorry about the internet.
I'm sorry too, because it's really hard, Dr. Ann, and this is such an important story. And what you're actually doing in exposing all of this is so important. We've got some really bad stuff coming down, sex trafficking, like you say. Literally, I was reading something about how many children are going missing every year, like just literally missing. And part of it is all related to these pedophile rings. We have judges, lawyers, doctors, teachers, very high up members of society, completely living a double life. And we don't know who they are necessarily. Sometimes we begin finding out, but then it's very hard to prosecute because they're all protecting themselves. And we've got a problem, a very big problem. I'll give you the final word, Anne.
Well, I want to say you're absolutely right. Prosecuting is a huge issue. So watch your children, be hypervigilant, say no to them. If they're asking for things that you know in your heart that it's not good for them, be a parent. Don't be afraid to parent, and bless
Thank you. Thank
you
you.
all.
God bless you. Thank you for taking your very tragic story and allowing us to see the vulnerability of it and allowing it to help our nation. Thank you. And we'll talk to you again really soon. Take care.
Bye, Laura-Lynn.
Bye-bye. So in keeping with this very difficult topic, and I'm sorry about the internet, but Dr. Gillies' book is absolutely phenomenal. So she's also got the other book, Closing the Floodgates, and that is also from her expertise as a counselor and many, many years of helping people with trauma therapy. But she is exposing what is going on. And we know this is happening because our schools are so sick. And I was watching about Governor Newsom down in California. Apparently his wife, this beautiful blonde lady, has created this film that is, the principals are saying it's not appropriate. So she sold it to every school there for $519 or whatever. You can play my film in your school to the little kids. And then she's garnered millions of dollars off of that. And then they find out that this, the content is not appropriate for little kids. Who makes a movie? It's got nudity in it. It's got inappropriate sexual stuff, right? They're going after the children. And Governor Newsom's wife, like, God help her on Judgment Day. Like, what kind of filthy wackos are there out there? And in keeping with that, there's something really weird going on in Saskatchewan. And I said to my dear friend, Mark Friesen, you've got to come on and tell us, because I see that they're protesting. And of course, Mark's going to stand because Mark is like the ultimate, like, he's not going to take this crap in his neighborhood. So Mark Friesen, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. And it's really, really good to see you. How are you doing? He's not frozen. Oh, just your audio. Yeah, we can't hear you. Yeah, just fix your audio. It's on your side, I think. Yeah. See if you can get that on. Yeah, I've been following your Facebook. Do you see it? Wow, the devil's mad today. Nothing's working. We must be on to something. Is it do you know what? Just disconnect and come in again, maybe? Maybe that'd do it. If you don't have your yeah, I think he did. If you don't have your delete on there. Okay, JT, why don't we run the video of NDP MP Matthew Green? Oh, the Tucker? Okay, let's do the Tucker Carlson. He joked about the U.S. rescuing Canadians from Trudeau. Take a look.
So I have to ask you about Canada and what we saw happen there last winter, the trucker protests, and then the crackdown by the authoritarian government of Canada. What struck you about that?
I thought you were going to ask me whether Trudeau is Castro's son, or
if you very much obviously is, and I'm completely in favor of a Bay of Pigs operation to liberate that country. I mean, why should we stand back and let our biggest trading partner, the country with which we share the longest border, and actually, I could just say a great country. I love Canada. I've always loved Canada because of its natural beauty. Why should we let it become Cuba? Like, why don't we liberate it? We're spending all this money to liberate Ukraine from the Russians. Why are we not sending an armed force north to liberate Canada from Trudeau? And I mean it.
Well, I don't know.
But
that
you don't have to answer.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm there yet with you.
I'm just talking myself into a frenzy here.
Help us. Send an armed force. We would love it. Liberate us from Trudeau. You know, we'd love that. Okay, so what happens after Tucker Carlson? And you guys know I love Tucker. We love playing his clips. He is absolutely one of the most stand-up men in North America, paying a high price. People want him fired. He gets death threats, all kinds of stuff. But after he says that, so then we have the NDP MP. Sorry, let me get back to my notes here. Matthew Green. So he then makes a failed attempt to condemn one of Tucker Carlson's sarcastic jokes about Trudeau in our parliament. They all get talking about this. Take a look.
Or Hamilton Centre, who will be getting up first.
Mr. Speaker, after consultation with the parties in the House, if you seek it, I believe you will find unanimous consent for the following motion. That given the rise of far-right and associated violent extremism led to the attempted insurrection in the United States, the House condemns recent comments made by Fox News personality Tucker Carlson, in which he suggests U.S. armed forces liberate Canada from the current Prime Minister.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. Nay, I'm afraid we don't have unanimous consent.
So they didn't have unanimous consent to deal with Tucker Carlson. So do we have Mark Friesen back? All right, let's see. Are you there? Oh my gosh. Is it? Oh man. What's going on? It's not us, right? You can see it a little bit or no? Are you using Chrome browser? Chrome? Yep. External mic or built in? Now we're doing our pre-production, everyone. If we'd have had him on first, we would have had it sorted, but we've had him so many times. Do you see anything? Chrome browser? Make sure you're on your Chrome. Anything else I should say, JT? Click on that little camera. What? Yes. In the URL, you can click on the little camera and select your microphone source. But you're always on, so it should be working fine, right? We got a phone? Yeah. Okay. We could just stay there, and then I'll call you. Good thinking. I don't. Okay, I'll give you, I will then, I guess, give you his number. I'll just go off of, just show him for a second, and he can smile, his beautiful smile. There we go. That's so funny. All right, everyone. Sometimes we just gotta. All right. All right, I'm back. Got that? Okay, we're gonna call you, Mark, and we're gonna be able to maybe potentially Bluetooth that in. Some very serious things happening. I don't know if you've been seeing all of these videos on transgenders. You know, there is a place in the United States, and I don't know if we had that on, but they're actually making a law that you will no longer be able to. Can't hear me? JT, have you taken me off now? No, he says I'm not on. Has my sound gone off now? Okay. I'm gonna Hope that sounds okay. Let us know in the feed if you guys have a problem. But there is a place that is actually going to make it illegal. One of the states in the United States is going to make it illegal for a transgender to do any kind of performance at all in front of a child. It will actually be illegal, and I'm hopeful that this is the way that we're going. I don't understand parents at all that have actually been willing to take their children. Oh, it's probably because he's on, so he can't actually get. He probably. We're trying to call you, Mark, and then it's not really working. Nope, not. What do you mean? Okay, I can't hear him yet.
There.
There we go. Okay, you got it working. Fantastic. Come on. It's good to see you. Yeah.
Good to
Say
see
something.
you too, Laura-Lynn.
Yeah. How's your health doing? First and foremost, we've all been to hell and back with respect to your health. So how are you feeling?
Good. Very good, actually. Things are progressing nicely. I'm starting to get some more lung capacity and doing a little bit more exercise. So it's good. It's
Excellent.
going in the right direction.
Yeah, you sound good. You look good. And so I've been seeing all this drama going on in Saskatchewan. Tell me what is happening.
So last week, we had a mother report in some mama bear group in Saskatoon that she went to the Shaw Center, which is one of our city-run pools, and as her daughter was changing to go to her swimming lessons or whatever it was that she was participating in, there was a male in the female washroom traipsing around without any underwear or swimming trunks or a towel, just walking through, exposing all of his parts. And so this woman reported that on this Facebook page. And then somebody I know that's in that group had shown me what she had written and the experience that they had had. And she went to the management of the Shaw Center and was told that, yeah, everybody has access to all of the washrooms. It's no big deal. And that's when it became a big deal, because, you know, Laura-Lynn, I spent 25 years in corrections working in prison. I know what predators are. I know how they operate. I know how they think. And predators, like pedophiles who get their jollies off exposing themselves to little kids, at a bare minimum, they're just waiting for an opportunity like this to take advantage of policy that allows them to enter into, little girls' change rooms. And so obviously our city council is not interested in protecting the kids. In fact, somebody had wrote to one of their city councilors. He used to be a radio host and now he's a city councilor. And they asked him about this and how this policy is exposing our children, our most vulnerable and women to predators. And his response, I sent it to your producer, but in the response, he doesn't talk about the safety or security of the children at all. In fact, he avoids it completely, and only addresses, the rights afforded transgender people to access public facilities. And our point is in all of this that the rights of our children, the security of our children, the safety of our children should be paramount over anyone else's rights. Now, this doesn't mean that we can't honor the Saskatchewan Human Rights Code by putting transgender people, or men, we'll just call them, in appropriate change rooms where they're not exposing themselves to children. There's an easy fix to all of this. but they refuse to acknowledge that it's even a problem. And so, we did a protest last Saturday. It was minus 33 with the wind chill, so it was a little chilly.
God bless you.
But we're having another one this Saturday because obviously City Hall is not getting it. They're not getting the message. They don't understand. Maybe they don't understand that predators use policies like this to take advantage of our kids, and to sooner or later, our children, some of our children are going to be traumatized by something like this, and I'm sure that that young girl that was exposed to this guy was already traumatized by this. They don't want to see men walking through their change room. So there should be other options. If you're going to have to honor, transgender because there's a human rights code in Saskatchewan that makes sure that we can't keep them out, well then create change rooms where they can go and change by themselves. So they're not, around kids, and they're not traipsing around nude. And again, when you read this counselor's response, he doesn't address the safety, the security of the children whatsoever. He completely ignores the issue.
Right, and I don't understand that. It is very clearly common sense. What's happening, Mark? Where's all the feminists? Where's the women who fought for women's rights and women's safe places that are now being disregarded by men?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And where are the men? Where are the men standing up for children, standing up for women and girls? Where are the men that are saying, you know what, no to this? Like, I don't know. I can only speak for myself. But if I was in, and I wouldn't have been in that change room because I have a men's change room, but if I would have been there when this happened and this lady had said something out loud, I'm not quite sure
How you would have handled it.
This
Don't
myself.
say anything more.
Right.
Don't incriminate yourself. I know it's so enraging. I actually feel that my blood pressure rising talking to you about it, because I'm imagining that if it were my child, in there, that this is so, it's so awful. How can they allow this?
We have to stop sacrificing our children at the altar of the woke and the trans.
Yes.
I just don't get it. I don't understand society that I'm living in. I mean, there should be thousands of people outside the Shaw Center this coming Saturday saying no, that we have to protect our children, because obviously the city government is not. They're completely, ignoring it and dismissing it. And what'll happen when one of these children are sexually assaulted by one of these predators, or worse? Then what? Is the city just gonna, come up with their crocodile tears and apologize? Well, then it's too late.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, do you feel that enough people are getting outraged? I mean, if a society just allows this to happen, sooner or later you go, okay, kids, I guess we're not going to public swimming places anymore. You know what? I guess we're just not going to be involved in this nonsense. We're going to have to make alternate places. We're going to have to, start setting up gyms and swimming centers where they care about women. They care about children. And we're going to have to go there and decide that we're not going to be participating. And we have to shame these people in some way. But I'm not certain that everybody gets involved enough. You should have thousands of people out there.
No, it's 100%. And this is the thing that people need to understand, that, we're not going to be able to move the dial. We're not going to be able to leverage City Hall if we don't have enough people defending the children, defending their security and their safety. If we don't have enough people that are influencing City Hall's decisions, then I guess we just have to stop going to these places, these government-run facilities. And we're talking about a province where, we have a provincial premier in Scott Moe and his government who actively promotes and sponsors drag queens reading to kids. So uh, Western Standard had asked for a comment from Scott Moe and his government, and of course he passed the buck onto the city and said it has nothing to do with us, it's a city matter, right? Well, then maybe you need to make some law in the province to prevent these cities from doing this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's so disturbing that people, when I was young, and me and you, I mean, I'm pretty sure that I'm a fair bit younger than you, Mark, but when we were young, it was an embarrassment if there was anything like that someone would be seen doing anything sexually inappropriate or standing for that. Like, we would stand up against that. Our teachers stood up against that if they were good people. That was my experience, that people were standing against that. It was not being promoted and outwardly, like it's in your face. And I know that you're in, you've been in the prisons and you've worked in there, but I just recently read a story that this one guy, he'd killed people. Then after getting charged, he then said, I'm a woman. And then he was put into the female prison. Like, all this is happening, which of course would put women prisoners at risk of a dude who's a murderer now being in their prison.
Right. Talk about putting the fox in the henhouse.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
It's just so shocking. Do you feel our parents outraged?
It's pure insanity.
People
and you know what's interesting?
Yeah.
Sorry, Laura-Lynn. You know what's interesting about all of this is the contradictions that happen, because we're in this age right now, and as part of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, one of their goals is to support and protect women and girls, right? This is one of their goals that they want to achieve. But also wrapped up in all of these goals is SOGI, is sexual orientation, gender identity, and all of this transgenderism, and how it's actually putting women and girls in precarious situations. It's 100% contradiction to what they say they want to achieve.
Yes.
And that's where all of this comes from. And I mean, even you look at our laws, Section 173 of the Criminal Code makes it a criminal offense if you expose yourself in front of children or other people, if you just expose yourself. And so we think this individual has broken the law. So we contacted the police. The police said they can't do anything until somebody files a complaint. So now the onus is on the victim's mother to file a complaint so the police will actually investigate something, even though they have the information that they could investigate it regardless of anybody putting in a complaint. But they choose not to because, again, city leadership. And this goes right to the mayor, Charlie Clark.
Does it? So in what way is the mayor supporting this? He's just not. He doesn't care about women. And
well, the mayor is a known, leftist, hard leftist, and this is where it stops. This is where it has to fall. The mayor is, he leads the city, and he leads his council, and so he has obviously the power to put forward policy in this city at public facilities to stop this from happening, stop exposing our children to predators who are taking advantage of a policy that obviously doesn't take into consideration the rights, the safety, and security of our children.
Well, I'm just glad that you're doing this, Mark. I'm just wondering, so are you promoting then that you'll be out there this next weekend, and moms
yes,
and dads, everyone should stop going to this place. We, as a society, the whole community should decide. I mean, picket at random hours all day. Like, easy for me to say I'm over here, but if somebody is Oh, like this is an assault on a child to have anything in their face. This is absolutely criminal. I do hope the mom would maybe do something, but you know what happens is you feel all this pressure and then you just want it to go away. She'll probably never want to go there again, or she'll be standing, guard a lot more for this sicko,
Well, that's right. And
nut
so what
job.
happens then what happens in these situations, Laura-Lynn, is, she might file a complaint with the police, and then of course it becomes public. Her name gets published, and then all of the crazy LGBTQ plus people, and this isn't LGB people. This is LGBTQ plus people that will light their hair on fire. We've heard that they're even going to run a counter protest while we run ours, because I guess they're in favor of putting children at risk of being assaulted or sexually assaulted or worse. It's just sick. So people are hesitant to follow through because they don't want to be sucked into this leftist vortex of hate and canceling and everything else. So but I'll do it every day, all day long.
100%. What kind? Just tell me about the kind of person who wants to do a counter protest to people who are upset that a little kid has had to have somebody else's junk in their face, at a public place of the opposite gender. What kind of people are weird and gross enough to show up to do a counter protest? No, we want kids to see that. Like, it's so shocking. They've all lost their ever loving minds. You can't have any respect for any of these people. There's no dignity in their perspective in life. It's really shocking to me.
And it's not only dignity, it's not only respect, but is it that they don't understand the situation they're putting these kids in? Because, as I said, this isn't about somebody's choice to pretend to be a woman and wear women's clothes. If somebody wants to do that, fill your boots, knock yourself out. I don't care. Whatever you do with yourself, that's your business. But when you create policy that predators and pedophiles can use to gain access to children. I mean, in Saskatoon right now, there's probably upwards of 100 pedophiles active that are looking for an opportunity to get their jollies from kids. They've created a policy now that allows these predators, because anybody who identifies as whatever they are can just access the female change room, is now gaining access to everybody's children. And this is the problem. These are active predators that are searching for an opportunity to assault a kid, take a kid, or even worse, murder a kid.
Yeah. 100%, Mark. I am just so glad that you're standing up. So where should everyone meet this weekend in Saskatchewan, in Saskatoon?
So, yeah, in Saskatoon at the Shaw Center, the scene of the crime. Last week we did it at City Hall. We thought maybe City Hall would be the best place, but we think this time we'll probably do it at the Shaw Center where it happened, and raise some awareness. They'll be open, so it'll be some cause and effect there. So, but again, we need as many people as absolutely possible. The weather's going to be a lot nicer. It's only going to be -7 on Saturday, so much different than it was last Saturday. So there's no excuse. We need everybody out there. We need everybody helping defend our children.
Yes.
The fact that I even have to do this, Laura-Lynn, drives me insane.
Totally.
Why do we have to do this?
I know. Like that we actually have to protest that no one's doing anything about little kids being assaulted visually by some predator in their bathroom.
Right.
That we have to march for this. It's pathetic. You are so right. So
Unbelievable. Like who are we electing? Who are we putting in these offices that are creating policies that are putting our children at risk? And when they respond to people concerned about these policies, they don't even address the kids' safety. They don't even address the risk that they're putting these kids in. They don't even
You
talk
know,
about it. The kids
absolutely
are secondary.
right. It makes me think that anyone who would be protecting this and not absolutely doing something about it is maybe a sicko as well. I always have that thought. Like, if you don't see that this is wrong, maybe you're weird. Maybe you are a predator. Maybe you're a problem.
Right.
I don't want to accuse anyone, but I don't understand who's running this place, the Shaw Center.
Right.
So, who's running this place that has absolutely no morals or integrity to protect children and think that's important?
And it's not like there isn't a solution, because they do fall back to the Human Rights Code in Saskatchewan that yes, government run facilities have to give access to transgender people. We get it. But you don't have to let people with junk in a girl's change room. You don't have to. You can give them another option. You can provide them with another option. So you're not prohibiting them from taking part in government run facilities like a swimming pool.
So, Mark, is it
You can
your
fix it.
reading? Right. Is it your reading, though, of this transgender law or whatever, that the intenders of this law are saying that if you're a guy, you can go into a women's bathroom and you can show your stuff to little kids? Is that the reading, the correct reading of this right in Canada?
Yep, that's what's happening. And their answer when the parent asked the establishment, the management of the establishment, what was happening, why did this happen to my girl? Their response was, well, anybody who identifies as female can go into the female change room. What? Why? Why is that happening? Why is that the answer? Why is everybody so agreeable to all of this insanity? We have to learn how to say no to people from time to time. Like, no, you're not allowed to show your junk to little girls. So you're going to go into that change room over there. That's for you.
Yeah, creep.
That's the end of the discussion. There's no more to talk about. It's phenomenal to me.
Yep. And that we're not protecting, what is right. And it's just it is shocking, and it's no wonder that so many things are going wrong in Canada in every area, because once you begin to remove godly principles in a nation, once you begin to allow perversion to rule and to get away with it, and everybody just turns a blind eye, like they're all like, and what a bunch of cowards. May I just throw in the word cowards for people that will not
100%.
put themselves in the firing line and say this far and no further. Whoever that person is should never be allowed there again. That should have been considered, that it should be charged by the center because it happened where they are. They should be protecting our children. Otherwise, guess what? We're not going anywhere near your facility because you guys are failing grossly to protect kids. It's just horrible.
But
they should lose their business license.
But it's our tax dollars that are funding these
facilities because it's a government place.
And so we should feel comfortable going to government facilities. We should feel comfortable utilizing all of these places that my tax dollars paid for. Why should I be excluded by not going because you refuse to protect children? Why should I be punished?
Exactly. And I'm wondering if they would feel comfortable with that happening to their kids. Would it be different if it was their child? I mean, what's going on? I always put myself in, hey, how would I feel? Do unto others as you would have others do to you. If I wouldn't want that happening to my family, my children, I would assume then that I would stand up for your children, somebody else. Why are they not having an instinctive, natural, protective take actions that are protective for kids. You work
Right.
for the government or not, well, then I guess we got to sue the government. I guess
Yeah.
a mom like this, maybe she has to have her name out there, and she needs to be compensated for pain and suffering for her child going through that. I think
Yes.
she deserves money
100%.
from the government. I think she deserves
Absolutely.
a lawsuit to be launched against these people, and that they would have to compensate her for allowing her child to be in a bad position and doing nothing about it when notified. It's
Right.
it's
100%.
absolutely
Absolutely.
disturbing. Mark, you're so
Yep.
amazing, because you don't have to take this on, and yet you are. And that's what I love about you. Thank you. Thank you for standing in
But
the
I
gap.
have to.
Yeah,
I have to,
I know.
because so many people won't. So I'll put the
There you
target
are.
squarely on my back. I'll run. I'll run that interference and,
Yeah.
and take the heat, because
And
I have
that's
to.
why
Kids are too important. for
Canada
them.
loves you. You're the Grizzly Patriot. And where's the men? And you were saying, where's the men? And my husband's like, exactly. And I appreciate that. Where's the men? Stand up for your daughters and your sons, for goodness sakes. No child needs to see this. It's awful. I would never pay any dime to this center. I would, if it was my kid, I would sue them. I would just be done. Like, we've got to take action, or it just gets
We do.
worse, right? The next person's
100%.
allowed in.
Absolutely.
What if somebody wasn't there? What if this child was raped or, assaulted physically?
Yeah.
It's just awful.
Or worse, or killed.
Right. Or killed.
I mean, we're talking about predators
yes.
that are more than capable of causing, enough harm to a child to end their life.
Yeah.
Why are we taking these kind of risks with these
Yeah.
predators?
Sue
It's
them.
just- yeah.
That's what I say. I say this
100%.
family should sue them. And if it means your name gets out, well, you just got to do what you got to do. But hopefully your child is deserving of protection. And these people are horrendous and misfits in
I
our
agree.
society. I can't stand it. So thank you, Mark. Thanks for what you're doing.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it. Let's talk again really
My
soon.
pleasure and duty.
Okay.
You betcha.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura-Lynn.
Oh, that's why I love traveling with Mark. And we did many cities across Canada as a team. We all traveled. We had Kayleen there, and my husband, and sometimes Alicio, the band, doctors, and we traveled through Canada to tell the truth about some of the things going on. And this, boy, do we ever have to stand. Moving on, we have a video from, as we close up here, we've got a video from one of my favorite, Wolf. Oh, we have to say goodbye to YouTube for this if we do it. Anything else we can show before saying goodbye to YouTube? Okay, let's do that. So is this the Germany producing sinister types of leaders? Okay, let's listen to the German Minister of Health, Karl Lauterbach, speak of paving the way for climate lockdowns using COVID as an example, of course. Oh, you got to read it. Okay, so maybe I better get ready to read it then.
Bewältigung des Klimawandels seien
So in order to
Maßnahmen
control
nötig,
climate
und
change,
dann
it's
jetzt wörtlich,
necessary, in your words,
analog zu
he
den
says, the measures and
Einschränkungen der
personal freedom
persönlichen
restrictions
Freiheit
needed to contain
in
the
der
pandemic are also
Pandemiebekämpfung
needed
sein.
for
Wie haben wir
climate
das denn
change
gemeint?
policy. Could you
Also,
explain?
kann ja
For
jetzt
example, I am
beispielsweise
less able to
weniger
travel
heißen,
because we need travel
weil
restrictions.
die Reisebegrenzungen
Oh,
notwendig
how is that
sind,
good?
damit wir nicht das
So
Virus
we
von
won't bring
anderen
back the
Regionen, wo es
virus from
Vorprävalenz
other
ist, in eine
regions of the
andere
world
Region
where there
verteilen.
are more
Ich muss
infections,
auf
he
viele
says.
Dinge
A lot of things I
verzichten,
enjoy doing, I cannot do
die
at
ich
the
gerne
moment
machen
because
würde, weil
it's
es
a
schädlich
public
wäre
health
für die
threat. Oh,
öffentliche
unless you want to be
Gesundheit.
naked,
Ich glaube, dass wir
somebody's gym.
bestimmte
Okay, I think we need certain
Beschränkungen
restrictions, he
akzeptieren
says, to
müssen,
contain
wollen wir den
climate change.
Klimawandel beherrschen. Dazu wird zum Beispiel
That
gehören,
means less
dass
travel
wir
is
nicht
part of
also
it
so
as
viele
well.
reisen, wie jeder reisen könnte.
Unbelievable. I cannot even rule out that during the climate crisis, we could end up in a situation where we would have to prohibit certain things. But this is exactly what critics are afraid of. That the current corona measures are being used as a blueprint to introduce climate dictatorship, says the interviewer. The guy says, oh, but those are conspiracy theories. How? You just said that the corona measures should be an example for the even bigger climate catastrophe. So it's just so good, isn't it? Like, he said, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory, after he just said, well, I think there's got to be less travel because, we don't want the coronavirus or viruses spreading from here to there. They don't want you traveling. They don't want you happy. They don't want you doing things to enjoy the bountiful world that God has given us. Oh, no. They want you locked down in your 15-minute city. Apparently, Edmonton is going to want to try this out. How do all you Edmontonians feel about that? You want the 15-minute city so you can go to your banker, your doctor, your work, all within that tight little thing. And don't stray out. Get that electric car and we can shut down the grid at any moment. And don't use cash, right? We want you on a digital currency so we can shut that down at any time as well. Oh, yeah, it's all a conspiracy theory, isn't it? All a conspiracy theory. Well, so do we need to let go of YouTube? Let me just say we got something that we need to show, and we need to do it over on Rumble, everybody. We sure do love you. Thank you for joining us today. We'll go over to Rumble every day. Try to get in the habit, actually, of finding us on Rumble so that you never miss a thing, because we don't get knocked off of there for telling the truth. So we'll say goodbye to YouTube. We love you. It's in the description. Go to rumble.com/Laura-Lynn, and it's in the chat. Just go there, and you can be there immediately.